Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Who wants to see a new knife from Null Knives? I do.
Well, I'm in agreement. I want one too. Maybe not right away, but I think I do still want one. Welcome in, guys. My name is Jim, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Null Knives and Corbin Steelworks collaboration called the Grace. Now, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a different format today. I'm going to be adding a little section in the very beginning, right after the photography. It just basically sums up the whole video for those of you that just don't have time to watch the whole thing. So comment down below if you like this new platform, and if you do, then I'll go ahead and continue doing it. Also, don't forget you can help support the channel by going over to my Patreon and becoming a member at patreon.com/JimSkeltonKnives. Whee! And now YouTube has this new thing right down there in the corner that you can click, and it's a little heart with a middle finger in it or something. And it says super thanks, and you can click on that and you can donate $1, $5, whatever you want to the channel. And that helps me get in new content to share with you. But this one is a prototype that was sent in by Sean over at Null Knives. Luckily, I did not have to pay for it, but I do have to send it back, unfortunately. Now, a lot of people have been seeing the pictures that he's been posting of this and getting very, very excited. And some people are a little worried about a couple of little things, namely the balance between the length of the blade and the length of the handle. And we will be getting into that, talking about the proportions, talking about what effective uses this might have as an EDC pocket tool. But honestly, you're getting into a super cool, super aggressive design that has an amazing action, and it feels really, really good in the hand. I think a lot of people are going to jump in on this pre-order. That's going to be coming in the early part of February. I'll have the date right down here, as well as describe it when I'm talking in the review section. And I'm running out of breath. Let's go ahead and get down to the tabletop review and see what we think of it.
Cruising in my lane fast, call it high speed. I've been working hard, yeah, I've been working nightly. If you think you'll win, nah, likely. I be taking shots, yeah, cold-blooded, icy. Watching numbers grow is what I call sightseeing. In the front row, run it up when they hype me. The following grows, they know how to ignite me. Call me CEO, I've been running right, see. And I ain't playing games, I create my own lane, making pleasure out of pain, turning losses into gains, I'm the boss, I'm making change. I've been rocking this exchange, popping off and risking things, gonna make a name. I just wanna be famous, but I don't want that cheap fame. No, I'm not that vain, I just wanna be greatness. I just wanna be greatness. I just wanna be greatness.
Okay, let's jump right into this. This is the Null Knives Grace collaboration with Corbin Steelworks, and your base price is $325, and that ranges up to $415 for most of the variants that are going to be available. There is going to be a top-end price of $590, and that will be for the version with this carbon fiber and a Damasteel blade. So that's going to be the one exclusive premium price version. I see most people probably going into that $325 to $415 range, either going into just the regular full titanium or maybe micarta inlays. Pre-order date is February 3rd at 8 p.m. Eastern. And you'll just want to simply go to nullknives.com and do the pre-order there. They're doing either a 100% prepaid order, or I believe it was a 60% prepaid order with the balance due when the production arrives. Now, I'm doing things a little bit differently here. I'm going to be adding a new section to my videos. Hope you guys like it. It's called TLDW, Too Long Didn't Watch. For those of you that just want to get the nitty-gritty on the knives, and not listen to the background on the makers and my personal thoughts on the knives and all the specs and all that stuff. Here it is. Gorgeous design. Really, really gorgeous design. Great ergonomics, if not a little bit on the small side. You're a little bit on the small side with the handle there. Great, smooth, snappy, fast action. Stupidly sharp. This thing is just crazy sharp. And the pointy tip really is going to be more for piercing and stabbing and not as much as an EDC practical tool. But those who like Null Knives' distinctive and futuristic and aggressive looks are probably going to really want to get their hands on this. Those who have a limited rotation of EDC knives may pass on it until they get to a point where they're buying knives just for the love of design or a particular type of style and blade profile. When you can start just buying stuff to buy stuff and not necessarily rely on it as a practical EDC tool for every single day. And I honestly believe that the wide variety of the variants that are going to be offered should satisfy most every collector, whether you're going for the titanium with no inlays, you're going for the inlays, and you have micarta or carbon fiber, and the different finishes that are available, going Damasteel or not. There are a lot of different ways that you can go. So I think that's going to make pretty much everybody happy. I mean, when you look at this knife, whether it be in pictures or just laying out here on video, you can't help but be impressed by the beauty of it. It is a really, really good looking knife. Now we'll get into the specs. We'll move this on over here and we'll get the specs listed up for you here. Boom! Overall length of 7.2 inches, blade length of 3 inches, cutting edge 2.9 inches, so only a little bit is being taken away by this aggressive sharpening notch. You've got a blade thickness of 125 thousandths of an inch thick, which is a nice slim blade stock to be lightweight, but still good enough for EDC purposes. You're certainly not going to have any worries about weakness in the blade stock. Blade material is M390, that is hand ground, beautifully hand ground, I might add. And you've got an HRC of 60 to 61. So that's a really good Rockwell hardness for regular, everyday EDC work. Certainly very acceptable. You've got ceramic bearings, ceramic detent. Your handle length is 4.2 inches, and the weight is only 3.8 ounces. And for those that don't know, these are made by Riot Knives. So, let's get into my thoughts. You've got a glass bead blasted titanium frame, which in my opinion is a really, really clean, smooth, and attractive finish. It will, of course, show snail trails, little snail marks from carrying, but not as bad as, I don't have any sitting here in front of me, regular bead blasted that's going to be more of a matte finish and a more porous pattern. It's going to show things just a little bit more, so I think people will be happy about that. So let's see here, them thumb studs right there, those are not just all black DLC titanium. No, my friends, those are zirconium. The pocket clip is zirconium. The floating back spacer is zirconium. I really, really dig that. And this version has the black camo carbon fiber. Love that look. It's a beautiful finish on it. They did a great job of making it a very seamless inlay. You cannot tell just by feeling it that you've got an inlay there. Really, really nice. When you get to the presentation side, you have a completely hardware-free look except for the pivot. I like that 6-shooter pivot. And all your hardware is basically just back here on the backside. Oh, love that feeling. Because that is ceramic bearings and a ceramic detent. Now the detent strength is about a medium. So if you like a really strong, really snappy detent, you know, something like the Chavez here, then you might not be overwhelmed with joy. But I'll tell you this, it's perfectly serviceable. It is not going to let that blade come out. And it also gives you the chance to slow roll the knife as well. If you have too snappy of a detent here, then what you're looking at is you'll go to push that blade open and it'll break past the detent and then boop, and you're like, shit. And now your thumb is behind, it ends up behind the edge, and that can be dangerous. With this, I can very, very easily slow roll it. No problem whatsoever. But yeah, if you're a flicker only, you'll probably wish it had a slightly stronger detent, but I really don't think anybody's going to have a serious issue with it. Now, this is a prototype, and I want to discuss some of the changes that will be coming into production, okay? Number one, the jimping. While the jimping on here is good, certainly nothing wrong with it, they wanted to add more jimping. So instead of it stopping behind the thumb stud, it's going to stop at the front of the thumb stud. So if you're hiked up on that blade, you're going to have even more coverage for the jimping. Great idea. Another thing, and this was something that I was going to be knocking in my review about this particular knife, is, well, this really isn't much of an EDC profile, is it? It really is purpose-built to kind of just, you know, stab and pierce and draw blood. What they've decided to do is they have added an extra bit of length to the main bevel, or excuse me, to the main edge. So that's going to be about 3 millimeters longer. And then instead of this front edge being a completely straight tanto edge, they're adding a little bit of curvature to it so that you've got a belly up there. What does that mean? That means it's going to be a lot more useful, especially for cuts like this. If you're, you know, cutting lanyard or cutting rope or something like that, you have more of a rocking cut that you can do. You can also slice into things easier because with a tanto that's that straight, you're going to be cutting here and here before you cut here if you're cutting into something. When you've got a little bit of belly, it allows you to kind of slice into it. So this will now be a more practical knife. And I'm really, really happy to know that because I kept looking at this going, man, I like this design. I love their futuristic and aggressive designs, and obviously this being based on Corbin Steelworks' most popular model, this was his design and just kind of touched up a little bit with by Sean at Null Knives. But I kept thinking, man, it just, for somebody who really wants to grab and go, and they reach for this knife, it may not be the most practical choice. And we all have knives that we own that are not practical, but we decide to carry those, right? So you know what you're buying when you're buying it. And if you're buying this for that reason, you're just going to love the shit out of it. But if you were buying it and going, hey, this is a knife I want to add to my rotation because I like it so much, I want to carry it every day, you might find some limitations to this unless you are out there stabbing people in the asses all day long every day. And then for you ass stabbers, this would have been perfect. Now, it's going to be made more practical by having a little belly to that tanto tip and having a little more cutting edge to the main edge. So I'm really happy to see that. That makes me very, very excited. There is going to be a little more lock bar access. And honestly, I don't think that the lock bar access is bad because you've got this wonderful mill work that's done in there to give you traction, but they are going to cut away just a little bit in the presentation side of the frame so you could just simply drop your thumb onto it and unlock the knife. That's always a good idea. And the other thing is going to be the detent ramp, which you can't see in here right now because the knife is assembled, but they have kind of a long detent ramp and it goes up kind of high. And honestly, I think this detent ramp works pretty good, but you can see it has the ability to bounce back if you're just kind of dropping it. So what it's going to do is it's going to let it drop a little bit more and just very smoothly close. Not that you should be shaking your knives closed anyway, but it's something that we all kind of do every now and then just to kind of feel the action. But when you're closing it like this, you're not really going to notice a difference hardly at all. Let's see what that detent actually feels like. Get some focus on there. All right. Make sure my finger is not on the lock bar. Yeah, perfectly fine. Just nothing crazy, that's all. What is crazy is this overall look, the overall design of this knife. The one thing I don't like, which it is a stylistic choice in the way that it was done, I really do not like this sharpening notch. It's too big for a sharpening notch. I mean, you could stick the end of your index finger in there, but it's too small to be a finger choil. So it's too big for one, too small for the other, and it leaves a very, very sharp corner here. And what can happen is you can very easily close that onto your thumb, and what are you getting for the contact? You're getting an extremely sharp corner there. That I'm not crazy about. That, to me, could have been designed a little better. Does it make this knife a no-go? No. You'll just know, hey, maybe I shouldn't do this shit. Because while I'm showing it hitting my thumbnail, if you were dropping it from here, there's a good chance it's going to land right there and cut you right open. So do be aware of that. As it ships out of the box, it's a smooth action, but it's not a drop-free action. So you probably don't have to worry about that. But you know what? In a year or two, that action could get a lot smoother. And the second you unlock it, it could start dropping. And I don't know. I really don't like that. That could have just been a straightforward, normal sharpening notch and been fine. Or this could have been stylized a bit and they could have made that a finger choil, and that would have been fine. But as it is, it just doesn't make any real sense. But it does add to the aggressive look of the overall blade profile. I'll give it that. And that really is what they were going for. This is not meant to be a practical knife. So you don't have to worry about everything being practical in it. I think at that point, you're nitpicking. And that's my job, is to kind of nitpick a little bit. There is the Corbin Steelworks Maker's Mark on this side. Look how clean all the finishes are. They've even chamfered around the edges where the lock bar cutout is. Great job on contouring the pocket clip. There's no hot spots anywhere on that pocket clip, no matter how tight you grip the knife. This knife was dropped, by the way. Sean dropped it, not mine. I didn't do it. This is his prototype, his personal carry prototype. I like having the frame cut away with the back spacer exposed with the lanyard hole. Very useful, and they found a way to make it attractive. Floating back spacers are always cool. They're not needed, they're not practical, but they sure are cool and not very easy to execute. Null Knives logo back here. More beautiful, seamless workmanship going through here. And then that hand-rubbed satin blade. Hand-ground, hollow ground primary, flat ground tip grind. Comes to a needle-like tip. Beautiful job. I love the swedge on there too. I am a swedge guy. I love my swedges. And yeah, they did an absolute bang-up job on keeping the lines crisp between the swedge, the flats, the primary, the front tip grind. Everything is distinct and crisp after the hand rub. Nothing rounded over, washed out. Oh, I love the look of that. That 6-shooter pivot style looks real cool. By the way, all the hardware on here is T8 hardware. So if for any reason you have to take the knife apart, you don't have to worry about having a bunch of different tools, T8s, T10s, and T6s. You're just going to need the T8, and you're in good shape. So them's my thoughts on the knife. If it were me, here's my thing. I really like the knife. I love the design. I don't know that it's a must-own for me like the Voodoo is. I think the Voodoo is still the greatest thing that has come out of Sean's mind. But I like it a lot. I think it's one of those knives that I would buy, much similar to the knife that I brought out here a couple minutes ago to talk about Damasteel, like the 904 Dan Caraher. It's not the most practical everyday carry knife, but there's so many things I love about it that I felt at some point I had to own it, and I'm really glad that I do. It just doesn't get carried as often as, say, the VBR. Okay, so the VBR obviously is much more of an EDC friendly style, the way that you hold it, the way that it's been ground, the blade profile, the finish work. I mean, yes, some people really would worry about scratching up Damasteel. I'm not really one of those people. But yeah, if I knew I was going out for, that I really had to do some kind of hard cutting or some shit, I would reach for this before I would reach for, that Damasteel 904. So I feel that this is a knife that I really like. But I have a long list of knives that I want and a short list of knives that I'm really eager to get. So this is going to make the long list. This is a knife that I want to own. I want to have the experience of carrying it every day. I've played with it for the past few days and really, really, really enjoyed it. But I don't feel the burning need and desire to own it with all the other knives out there that I want to get my hands on. But it is one that at some point I do want to have in my collection, and I know that I'll enjoy greatly playing with it, fidgeting with it, having something that looks just murdery and evil and aggressive. I really like that design. And I really like the choices they made, the shape they chose for the inlays, the style of pivot, the fact that they did zirconium on titanium instead of just blackened titanium or PVD titanium, which, by the way, that's what the screws are. These are titanium that are black PVD. But all the components that are on there are zirconium. That's a really, really cool thing to have. Just for bragging rights, it's not like every other knife out there. Like I was just showing my VBR, I love it, but it's not like I got a zirconium pivot in it. No, it's just black DLC titanium. Nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't have that additional speciality to it that this does, and I dig that. I love the fact that they brought the tip all the way out to the end of the frame, which if you're looking at this only in pictures, it looks like the blade is way, 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 way shorter than the handle. It's only a tiny bit shorter than the handle. It's weird how visually the proportions play versus how they actually play out. Yeah, there is a shorter blade than the handle, of course, but it looks way shorter, but it actually isn't. And it's because of this truncated tip right here, the way that it's steeply angled as it is. Only that much is a concern for the backspacer. So if this were a Wharncliffe, or actually a Wharncliffe would look kind of small too, more of a standard shaped blade, maybe a drop point or something, that having to clear that, you would still have so much blade here that it would look like a larger blade. But because of the style, and yep, that's why you don't sit there and play goofy shit and move your fingers around blades. All right. So anyway, in a different blade shape, the blade would look longer and look more proportionate to the handle. The only reason it looks disproportionate is because of the shape and profile of the blade. That's it. But it is actually well proportioned. I was worried about that when I first saw the pictures. I'm like, man, that blade is way too tiny for that handle. It's actually not. It's well proportioned. You just have to have it in your hand to understand that. All right, guys, I'm out of here for now. I'm going to go bleed off camera for a while. I told you it was sharp. And I will see you on the next video.